Well, the final stop of the year right here in Anaheim, California. Tonight, your Rangers take on the division-winning Los Angeles Angels at Angel Stadium. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Graves, Steve Busby. Delighted you could join us for this Friday night of Rangers baseball. And the Rangers are indeed taking on the division champion Angels tonight. And the Rangers have something going for them that not many other teams do. And, Tom, that's a bunch of hot rookies.
Well, they're playing a lot of rookies, Buzz. We've been talking about opportunity all season long. And a lot of rookies have done some good things. We're going to highlight a couple of them tonight in the open to the show. Ryan Rua, in the last 10 games, hitting .359. He's knocked in 6 runs. He's had good at-bats. He hasn't struck out very much. He has not been overmatched in any ball game. Jake Smolinski spent some time on the disabled list. When he came back, he hit a home run. He went 4 for 4. He's 6 for 13 in his last 3 games, and he's knocked in 3 runs. So both Ryan and Jake have played very well and hoping to continue over the last week of the season.
And they're going to back up a rookie pitcher on the mound. Luis Alberto Bonilla gets his second big league start tonight. He'll have his hands full as he's taking on the Hot Angels. Adam Rosales and company, the Rangers and the Angels coming up next from Anaheim, California on TXA 21. Sponsored by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. By Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. And by TXU Energy, inspired by you. Well, delightful evening here in Southern California. The sun setting out over the Channel Islands. Beautiful pink sunset, and Angels getting their regular lineup back in there after a night's rest for the regulars after clinching the division here on Wednesday night. They sat around and watched the tail end of the Rangers-A's game. And, of course, that was the night the Rangers came back with 6 in the 9th inning, defeating the A's and sending the Angels into the postseason as the division champion. So tonight, the Rangers facing the left-hander Hector Santiago for the Angels, and we'll take a look at the Rangers starting lineup that Tim Bogar has put together. Leonis Martin again leading off. He's in center. Elvis Andrus, the shortstop. Batting third, the first baseman, Adam Rosales. Adrian Beltre bats cleanup. Jake Smolinski is the DH tonight, 6 for 13 with a home run since coming back from the DL. Robinson Chirinos is catching. Ryan Rua is in left. Rougned Odor bats 8th and plays 2nd. And the number 9 hitter is the right fielder, Daniel Robertson.
And our scouting report for Hector Santiago. He's 5-8, but a nice ERA, 3.55. He's had 27 games. 22 of them have been starts. 19 consecutive starts with 6 or fewer innings pitched. Obviously, he's not pitching very deep into his starts. Why? Because he throws a lot of pitches, almost 18 pitches per inning. That's the second most in the American League with pitchers with more than 100 innings pitched. So he throws a lot of pitches, nibbles around the plate. He's usually gone. In fact, he's gone almost every time before the 6th inning. But in the meantime, teams aren't doing a whole lot of damage against him either.
Yeah, usually it's Santiago and a pretty good portion of the bullpen that's been effective so far. Well, the Angels defense tonight with Sean O'Malley getting the start in left field. Mike Trout in center. Cole Calhoun is in right. Albert Pujols at first. Howie Kendrick and Eric Ibar up the middle. David Freese at third. Hank Conger is catching. And the left-hander Hector Santiago is on the hill. Well, the Rangers come in with that 6-game winning streak, their longest in just a little bit less than a year. Last couple of weeks of September last year, they had a 7-game winning streak. It was the last 7 games of the regular season. And Leonis Martin showing bunt as he has been willing to against left-handers, and he took it for strike 1. Martin with that 280 average, and in no small part due to a league-leading 14 bunt base hits. 1-1. That has become a real weapon. I know Tim Bogar certainly appreciates Leonis Martin's efforts against left-handers. He said that'll keep him in there in the lineup as long as he's willing to use that bunt as a weapon against tough left-handers. 1-1. The other way by Ibar into left field, a base hit. And there's the other weapon.
I was going to say the exact same thing. There's the combination of 2 weapons that has made him a much better hitter the last month and maybe 5 weeks. His ability to bunt for a base hit and his ability to go the opposite way. It's just turned his offense around. It's a nice combination that he's featuring right now.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that's going to happen every time, the ability to use that, but it's happening more and more often, and you like what the work that Leonis Martin is putting in.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that he's turning into an opposite field hitter. It just means when he gets the appropriate pitch that you should hit to the other field instead of trying to pull it. He's shown the ability to do that more than he did before, and that will help him.
No, 1 on, nobody out. You'll remember the Rangers last time in this ballpark tried to turn the early innings into a track meet. They were stealing right and left, and certainly they have a guy at first base who can run a little bit, a guy at home plate who can handle the bat a little bit, and Elvis Andrus. 1 ball, no strikes. I think between Hank Conger, the guy that's catching tonight for the Angels, and Chris Iannetta, they got a case of the yips when the Rangers came into town. The last couple of years, they just ran them ragged. Elvis in his last 5 games starting to turn things around. You saw that 318 average. Got some gap power going also. There goes Leonis. The pitch is a strike. The throw to second is high. And Leonis Martin down in the starting blocks and off and running. Swiping second. He's in scoring position with nobody out.
Yeah, unless Santiago decides to use some kind of a slide step to get the ball to the catcher quicker, I don't see Hank Conger having a whole lot of success trying to throw out runners.
29th stolen base of the year for Leonis Martin. No, and you're right. That's not the catcher's.
No.
The catcher's fault. Let's put it that way. Elvis trying to bunt and bunted through one. And the count goes to 1-2. Elvis not in sacrifice mode, but dual purpose mode, if you will, trying to bunt for a base hit. If he got it down and didn't get a base hit, at least he'd get a sacrifice. 115 hits against the Angels since the start of 2010. He's got Leonys Martin at second with nobody out. And Santiago, instead of making a move back towards second, just stepped off very quickly. Elvis, a couple of home runs, 38 RBI. That RBI total creeping up pretty steadily of late. Santiago, a couple of looks at second. Now the 1-2. Elvis would like to have that one back again.
Yeah, that's when you feel like you want to hit. You want to hit and you need to hit. Yeah, Santiago kind of expanding on how many pitches he throws. He's averaging right about 5 innings per start. But in those 5 innings, he's throwing about 90 pitches, 18 innings per start. So it's not like he's just coming out for the sake of coming out. He's coming out because he's reached his workload, really, jamming 90 pitches into 5 innings every time out.
Left-hander and a little inside move, and Leonys not going anywhere. Although it wouldn't surprise me if the kind of leg lift that Santiago has, Leonys wouldn't try to swipe third.
Yeah, if they let him get the kind of lead he's got right now.
Yeah, exactly. High and outside, and that was a case of Santiago trying to use a slide step and losing command of the pitch.
Yeah.
Speed on the base paths does funny things to pitchers. It makes you do things that you have to scratch your head afterward and say, where in the world did that come from? Or what was I thinking? Well, you're thinking about a guy stealing a base off you, what you were thinking. 2-2, the count to Andrews. And another foul off. Oh, Elvis hanging tough. Rangers this year, not much luck against the Halos. They are just 3-13. They are 2-4 in this ballpark. Tim Bogar, a 7-5 mark though, as the skipper of the Rangers. And he's trying to figure out a way to reel in this Angel club against the Rangers this year. Slowly hit to short. Good break by Martin. He'll make it to third. Elvis is thrown out. And an excellent read by Leonys Martin to advance on the slow roller. No, Elvis gets the job done. Now Martin at third with 1 out for Adam Rosales.
Well, Adam comes into the game hitting .295. There's been a lot of players get opportunities, and that seems like that's the theme every night, talking about development and opportunity. But there haven't been many that have gotten the opportunity, taken advantage of it, and changed the way they're perceived in the organization much more than Adam Rosales has.
Yep, that's a good point. And, nobody's going to confuse Adam with a rookie by any means,
no.
But he's in the same boat where he's getting an opportunity, as you said, Tom, that he hasn't had before. He hasn't had the chance to play every day.
And even if the Rangers look at him and say, well, if everyone's healthy next year, we don't see a spot for him to play regularly, he at least has moved well past the guy that plays once every couple of weeks and is just an occasional utility guy, because he can play the positions. I think he's played well enough to where he has earned himself the opportunity to get more playing time if he's with the ball club next year.
And I think with a utility guy, you always have the question mark, well, if somebody gets hurt, can he play more than a couple of days in a row?
Yeah.
And I think Adam Rosales has already answered that for the Rangers.
I do too.
So, yeah, he can play. You can put him out there in different positions, but he has the ability to certainly not get buried in a week or 10 days of playing all the time.
No one was more honest about that than Wash. Wash said, look, I didn't really see where he helped our ball club.
Right.
But the more I've seen him, the more I've grown to like him.
Yep. Ahead in the count here, 2-1. Santiago back to the plate. It's fouled off to the right. So Santiago now in a position where he could try for a strikeout of Rosales if he has a pitch that he's saved for that situation.
The other thing Adam brings to the table is he's got a very good personality. He's optimistic. He's outgoing. He's got good energy. He's a great teammate. He's always in a good mood. So you can't pick a better kind of guy to have that role on the team than Adam.
And he doesn't take very long getting around the bases on a home run. You have to like that.
He speeds up the game. But he's happy to be a big league ball player, and he's never lost track of that. Very well liked by his teammates.
Yep.
Anytime he's been out in the community, very well liked by the people he comes in contact with. So we're all for Adam Rosales.
Certainly are. One of the good people that you like to see get an opportunity to succeed.
Absolutely.
Like to see him succeed here and drive the first run of the game home. It's a 2-ball, 2-strike count. Martin at third with 1 out. And Santiago to him. Little looper out toward left center. It's down for a base hit. Martin will score. Adam Rosales with the RBI, his 18th of the year. And the Rangers out on top 1-0.
That's just a case of a guy bearing down and saying to himself, I'm making contact some way. I have to put the ball in play. I can't strike out with a man on third base and 1 out. And he's fooled by the changeup. It's not a strike. He lunges for it, but he accomplishes what he wanted to accomplish. He got the bat on the ball and got a little bit lucky when he looped it over shortstop for an RBI.
Nothing wrong with a little good luck here and there.
I'll take good luck. You don't get much luck if you strike out, that's for sure.
That's true. That's true. No, the Rangers, as they have done when they've been playing well, and that's get out in front. Adrian Beltre, a .322 average. That's third in the American League. And he's also had great success, as those numbers tell you, against Santiago, a .429 average. That ball's hit well to right field. Calhoun into the corner. Able to make the catch right at the edge of the warning track. Back to first is Rosales. That's out number 2. Looked a little better coming off the bat than it ended up.
I thought it had a chance off the bat, too.
No, 2 gone, and Jake Smolinski now will step in. Jake, of course, one of the rookies we highlighted in our pregame. It's Adrian driving that ball up and away. Smolinski, a .408 average. Home run, 8 RBI, and he is 2 out of 3 against Santiago. Rosales driven back by a soft toss from the left-hander. Now let's see if Adam tries to swipe second. He's had a couple of stolen bases of late. Rangers have already turned Leonis Martin's stolen base into a run. First pitch to Smolinski. 1 ball, no strikes. Five-game hitting streak for Jake, and that goes back before he had that broken foot from the foul tip. It goes back to the 20th of July. He's gone 9 for 20 in those 5 games. Rosales inching off the bag at first. And a good breaking ball from Santiago evens the count. For Jake, this is his 50th plate appearance. 15 games overall. And it's really a shame that he had to miss time with that broken foot on the foul tip, as he was swinging the bat then like he is now. That one's a towering drive to left field. Going back is O'Malley at the track. Goodbye! Jake Smolinski with his second big league home run. A 2-run bolt, and the Rangers lead it 3-0.
You talk about having good at bats. That kid's having a good at bat every time up. He's taking pitches that are close but out of the strike zone, and he's hitting all kinds of pitches, fastballs, off-speed pitches. Had 4 hits in a ball game the other day. Now right off the bat, he gets a fastball to hit, drives it over the left field wall. You know, there's one where you say, good, I got a good pitch to hit, and he did. Santiago's hoping it stays in the park, but no way.
So 3-0 Rangers. Base is empty now for Robinson Chirinos. He takes a knee-high strike. Watch the extension that Smolinski gets. He got a quick stroke, but boy, when he gets it through the strike zone, that's great extension. And Chirinos to right field. Calhoun in and to his right, makes the catch, and that'll do it. But the Rangers at it again in the first inning. 3 runs on 3 hits. Jake Smolinski's 2-run home run caps it off after half inning of play. Rangers 3, Angels coming up. For 3 in the top of the first, and now Luis Alberto Bonilla going back out there to try and protect that lead in his second Major League start. Here's the Angels lineup that he will face tonight. Cole Calhoun leads off. Mike Trout is batting second, .333 average in his last 2 weeks of play. Albert Pujols, the first baseman, bats third. Then it's the second baseman, Howie Kendrick. Eric Ibar, the shortstop. David Freese batting sixth, playing third base. The DH tonight is Brennan Bosch. Hank Conger is catching. Sean O'Malley playing left field and batting ninth for the Angels.
And our scouting report for Luis Alberto Bonilla. He's 1-0. He's had 3 games, 1 start. That was against the Braves, and it was a nice start. 92 strikeouts and 74 2/3 innings at AAA. He was acquired from Philadelphia in the Michael Young trade. Against the Braves, he pitched 6 innings. He walked 4, but he only gave up a couple of runs through 78 pitches. He's a little bit like Miles Michaelis in that he had pitched in relief for most of the minor league season, transitioned with 6 starts to the rotation, had a couple of relief outings with the Rangers, and now an opportunity to get some starts at the end of the year.
And the first pitch to Cole Calhoun is low for ball 1. Calhoun, a .282 average, 16 home runs, 57 driven in. He has been a big bonus for the Angels playing in right field and leading off this year. He has done a great job in that number 1 spot. Takes high and outside. It's 2-0. Calhoun, 3 out of 12 in the just completed series against the Seattle Mariners. And he has been tough on the Rangers this year. 4 home runs and 12 RBI in a dozen ball games. .24-year-old right-hander Luis Alberto Bonilla sets at the belt, and the 2-1 pitch hit hard. Diving stop by Adam Rosales, and he is doing it all. How about that?
I love the way he plays first base, boy. Sometimes they're hit right at him, and might not go in his glove, but he'll go down on both knees and smother the ball to make the out. And that one, he showed the reflexes of a shortstop. A couple of steps and a dive, and he takes a double away from Cole Calhoun, who has just destroyed Ranger pitching this year. I think we found a new Ranger killer this year in Cole Calhoun.
Yep. And Adam Rosales takes care of him. Very nicely done. So one very hard out. Here's Mike Trout. 1 ball, no strikes. Now it seems like the MVP talk this year starts and ends with this guy. At least that's the feeling I'm starting to get, that the numbers he's putting up are just incredible.
Yeah, and now he's got division championship going for him. Before, I guess you could look at Cabrera and say his team won and Trout's team didn't, but not this year.
And you look at the rankings, 34 home runs, 4th in the American League. Everything else first. RBI, runs. Lip line drive over to Elvis for out number 2. And Alberto getting a couple of quick outs. And we'll take a look at the rest of the Ranger defense. You've already seen a couple. Outfield tonight, Ruoff, Martin, and Robertson, left, center, and right. Adam Rosales manning first very capably. Odor and Andrews up the middle, Beltre at third, and Robinson Chirinos behind the plate. So a smash and a bloop, 2 out, and Albert Pujols to the plate. Didn't really want to do it. It's strike 1.
Pretty good pitch right there.
Pujols, 272, 26 home runs. His 13th year with 25-plus home runs. 98 RBI, sneaking up on that century mark. 1 ball, 1 strike. 21st all-time with those 518 career home runs. Willie McCovey, Frank Thomas, and Ted Williams are next on that list at 521. 2 balls and a strike. Pujols this year against Ranger pitching, an even 300 with the average. But he does have a couple of home runs, and he has always been tough on Ranger pitching. 2-1 for Bonilla. Now 3 balls and a strike. Well, Bonilla being wisely careful to Pujols, has fallen behind now. And if Pujols is able to get aboard, Howie Kendrick, Angels second baseman, waits to be next. Bonilla, a long look in. Now the angular right-hander is ready. Got something other than a fastball, a straight fastball.
I think the movement on that went right underneath his bat.
Sure did. Oh, full count. Back to the plate and blowing outside, ball 4. Chirinos had the idea that he wanted to pitch inside, and Bonilla missed with it. So a 2-out walk. Pujols at first, Kendrick coming up. Howie Kendrick has been a man on a mission this year. 291 average, 7 home runs, 71 driven in. He's had 15 RBI in his last 14 ball games, and Mike Scioscia has decided that he is the middle of the order guy that they were looking for when Hamilton's not able to go.
He's definitely responded to that opportunity.
Last 12 games, 447 average. And that includes 11 runs scored. 3 doubles, a couple of triples, 2 home runs. 1 ball, no strikes.
I think what Luis Alberto has to do is guard against trying to be a little too careful. Now, Albert Pujols is a great hitter, and I'm sure he's well aware of that. But at the same time, the Rangers are ahead 3-0. There's 2 outs and nobody on. You want to get yourself in trouble in this lineup because they've got a lot of guys in this lineup that are hot and can knock in runs.
Leading scoring team in baseball. There's a strike, 2-1 to Kendrick. Angels have scored 745 runs this year. That's almost 4.9 runs per game. They have the biggest run differential between them and their opponents. 156 runs more than their opponents. Bonilla nods in agreement. The 2-1 pitch. Now 3-1. And we talked about Josh Hamilton. 89 games this year is all Josh has been able to get in the lineup for. And he's been on the DL with the thumb from April through June and missed action with a right shoulder injury. And they're not really sure what this last injury is. It was the shoulder that was sore, his AC joint. And now it's gone down into the rib cage apparently. And did an MRI and came back with no damage and still getting pain. Another walk, Howie Kendrick and Albert Pujols aboard after the passes. 2 on, 2 out. Eric Ibar coming up. Mike Maddox headed to the mound.
I got the first two guys quickly, and then I think got a little bit worried about throwing a good pitch to hit to Albert Pujols, and now he finds himself in a little bit of a jam with Eric Ibar coming up. And Eric Ibar, all he's done the last month is hit .350, raise his average about 20 points. So you're facing a tough little guy batting fifth. Not the kind of guy that you would look at and say there's a middle of the order guy.
Yeah.
But the way that this lineup is scoring runs, the way Mike Scioscia has crafted his lineup, is definitely churning out runs and working this way.
Sure is. Along with the one of the top pitching staffs in baseball, and that's a deadly combination for the opposition. Here's Ibar, first pitch, and he fires the bat over the head of Alfredo Griffin. It's a foul bat.
He got pretty good. That's Josh Hamilton distance right there.
Yeah. Josh would have been back in the 15th row.
Yeah, he pulls his a little bit more.
That was kind of a low liner that he threw out there. And the folks here are warned entering the stadium. Beware of bats and balls leaving the playing field. And that one didn't lead. It would have had to go on 330 feet to leave the field on that line, but you get the idea. Ibar at 282, 67 RBI. Low and inside. A ball and a strike. Well, Bonilla has one outing this year against the Angels. That was in relief on the 10th of September. Gave up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Just had one hit. There was an error mixed in there. He probably doesn't have fond memories of that. Chopper to third. Beltre from down under fires to Rosales. So Bonilla able to work around the 2 out walks. They strand 2, and after 1, it's the Rangers 3 and the Angels nothing. Center Arlington, Texas Rangers Fitness All-Stars video. If you'd like to see what the excitement is all about and how you can get your kids healthy at home, just visit texasrangers.com/fitness. Don't try that at home without the video. Top of the second inning, Ryan Rua starting things off. It's the bottom third of the Ranger order. Rangers sent 6 men to the plate in the first, and 3 of them crossed home plate. Rua, 286. As we mentioned in our pregame remarks, Rua and Smolinski have really shown that they can have quality at bats. And they have virtually every time up. They both had great series up in Oakland. Trying to carry that over here. Smolinski with a home run his first time, and now Rua starts things off here in the second with a solid base hit to center.
Well, the 2 guys we highlighted in the open are looking pretty good. Jake Smolinski with a 2-run homer. Ryan Rua with a base hit up the middle. His first at-bat of the night. Ryan continues to have good at-bats. Got a good approach to hitting. When he gets his pitch, he's been able to put it in play and find holes.
Well, that already is the 4th Ranger hit of the night. 1 on, nobody out. Rougned Odor, who like Rua and Smolinski, has been the guy working into things, and he shoots one to right field, a base hit. Rua around second, headed for third. Calhoun's throw not in time. Rangers playing first and third as Odor picks on the first pitch he sees from the left-hander Santiago. And Cole Calhoun made a strong throw, but Rua able to leg it out and get to the corner.
I'll tell you one thing, it looked like it clicked for Rougned Odor about 2 weeks ago, because he's gone from a rookie keeping his head above water, having a few good streaks here and there, playing some nice baseball, to being a force right now. Yep. Boy. Last 10 days or 2 weeks, he's been one of the best players in the league.
Yes, he has.
I'm not trying to say he is one of the best players in the league. I'm just saying over the last 2 weeks, that's the way he's been playing.
Well, runners at first and third, nobody out. And Daniel Robertson, the number 9 man, will step up. Daniel, one of the Ranger hitters that has not had a lot of success lately, or against Santiago for that matter, 0 for 5. Daniel Robertson, but he's got a chance here to enhance the Ranger lead. And a little looper out of the shallow center. Going out a couple of angels, and it falls between Ibar and Kendrick and in front of Trout. In to score is Ryan Rua. Yeah, there you go, Daniel. That's all you had to do. You've been hitting the ball too hard.
So I want to be like Adam Rosales. Well, they've hit some balls hard. They've hit some balls soft. The bottom line is 6 out of the 9 hitters have had 5 out of the 9 hitters have had singles, and Jake had a home run.
Daniel Robertson able to find no man's land out there in shallow center. His 19th run driven into the year. And Mike Butcher going to go out and try and slow things down and give the Angels bullpen an opportunity to get loose. Rangers leading 4-0.
Vinny Pestano was out there warming up early in the ball game.
Pestano, with Santiago on the mound, might have thought he might have a shot later on, because what you mentioned, Tom, about Pestano, or I should say Santiago, not having a whole lot of late inning appearances.
Well, Daniel Robertson has a nice throw, being on first base and chatting it up with Albert Pujols.
There you go. Rangers turning things around in more ways than one. They're scoring a lot more runs. They're statistically doing things right of late, at least having the results work out right of late. That's what you're after. So 3 consecutive hits open the second. A run across, first and second, back to the top of the order, Leonis Martin, and he bunts through a Santiago fastball. That time Leonis was trying to sacrifice him, get the runners over. Isn't that something? Leonis Martin can lay down a drag bunt or push bunt when he's trying to bunt for a base hit. Never even give it a second thought. And he tries to sacrifice. It looks like he's never bunted before.
He ought to bunt for a base hit then.
Now Martin shot one through the hole on the left side his first time up. Rangers now with 6 hits already. Nobody out here in the second inning. They're the American League leaders with Leonis Martin, 14 bunt base hits. He was starting to square around again to bunt. Saw Eric Ibar on that list second. He has 10 of them. 0-1. Now 1 ball and 1 strike. And Martin will check with Gary Pettis down at third. See what Tim Bogar might have in mind here for Leonis Martin.
You know, in Santiago's last start against Houston, he pitched 2 innings, gave up 5 hits and 5 walks, and was gone after 2 innings. The walks have not been an issue. He hasn't walked anybody. Hits have been an issue.
Now there's a good bunt. Tough play for Conger. He throws it down the right field line. Odor will score. Being held at third, Daniel Robertson into second. Leonis Martin, it is a 5-0 Ranger lead.
Oh, he was sacrifice bunting, but he laid down a pretty good sacrifice bunt. There was a bunt single and an error.
Yep. The first error of the ball game, and boy, this really puts pressure on folks. He had that kind of speed and laid down a sacrifice. Conger tried the best he possibly could, but threw it down the line. So everything going the Rangers' way here. And Hector Santiago finished for the night. So Vinny Pestano is going to be summoned out of the Angels bullpen. So in the second inning with nobody out, Rangers on top 5-0. We'll take a timeout. We're back to Anaheim after this on TXA 21. Rangers having everything go their way here in the first inning plus. They put 3 on the board in the first inning, and they have had 4 consecutive hits and an error here in the second inning.
22nd game for Vinny Pestano. He's been a situational right-handed pitcher. 21 games, only 16 innings. Gonna have a chance to pitch a little bit more than a partial inning in this game, you would think.
You know, he inherits runners at second and third with nobody out. And Elvis Andrus at the plate. Elvis, a ground ball to short his first time. And the Angel infield will come pretty much all the way in. Out of play on the first base side, 0-1. Elvis limited at bats against Pestano. 0 for 1 with a couple of walks. Got Robertson at third base and Leonis Martin at second. 1 ball and 1 strike. Elvis the last 5 ball games has driven in 4 runs, and that was a problem for him the first 3 quarters of the year. He has started to deliver in these situations. That is a bit high. It's 2-1. Take a look at at our Ford leaderboard, and in the month of September, the Detroit Tigers hitting at 310, but the Angels and the Rangers not far behind, both at 273. The 2-1. Way outside, off the glove of Conger, back to the backstop. Daniel Robertson comes in to score, and on the wild pitch, the Rangers take a 6-0 lead.
You can go a month and a half and have a hard time scoring runs every single night. You get into a streak like this and the runs just keep flowing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you do. You get wild pitches to score runs, home runs, bloopers, errors. It's hard not to score runs right now. Wish it's been that way the whole year.
No kidding. Well, the Rangers wouldn't be 60-92 if that had been the case. And Elvis pops another pitch foul out of play. And it's 3 balls and 2 strikes. Vinny Pestano, longtime Cleveland Indian bullpen hand. Studying the signs, he is now ready. Payoff pitch coming to Andrews. Shallow center field. Michael Trout, come on, makes the catch. Tagging at third, here comes Leonis Martin. The throw to the plate, he is safe.
Well, that was a good throw from Trout. Thought I had another blue pit there for a second, but it carried too far. Trout made a good throw. Conger wasn't able to catch and tag at the same time. Elvis picks up a sac fly.
Elvis with his 39th run driven into the year. It's a 7-0 Ranger lead.
Trout doesn't have the same kind of arm strength that Martin has out in center field, but from a not too deep part of center field, he still made a pretty good throw. It kind of short hopped the catcher a little bit, made it tough to catch.
Well, base is empty now, and Adam Rosales takes way outside for ball 1. Just 1 out still here in the second. And that sacrifice fly, by the way, closed the book on Hector Santiago. An inning pitch, 7 hits, 7 runs. Depends on what Rosales and Beltre do, so whether they have 7 earned runs or not. Little looper, shallow right, going out Kendrick, and he makes the catch. That is out number 2. Well, Rosales 1 for 2 as he heads back to the Ranger dugout. Now it will be Adrian Beltre's turn. Tim Bogart's going to start feeling, hey, this is no problem. What's the big deal about this, winning ball games? Huh? 6 or more runs in 5 straight games.
I think Tim's doing a great job, but he's been here all year. He knows how hard it's been to score runs. He's pretty happy the way they're scoring runs right now, but he knows what can happen throughout the course of a year.
Yeah, and I hope you folks heard the pregame interview. And Tim said, it sure is a lot more fun, though, when you win. And
oh, boy.
Everything else aside, that's the bottom line. 1-0 pitch to Beltre. Now 1-1. Adrian against Pestano over the years, 1 for 3. Side-wheeling right-hander comes back to the plate and misses inside. 2 balls and a strike. Beltre against the Angels has been picking on their pitching staff pretty well. A .346 average in the last 26 ball games. That goes back to the start of 2013. Now 3-1. Adrian batting cleanup, trying to get aboard to extend this second inning. Jake Smolinski, the home run man, waiting in the on-deck circle. The 3-1 coming to Beltre. Full count. Now Pestano set the payoff pitch. That's a hit well to right center field. That is up the alley and deep. Going back is Calhoun, and right at the wall tracks it down. Well, I thought Adrian had that gap plugged out there, and Second time he's hit the ball sharply, but it has an offer. Rangers, though, come up with 4 runs on 4 hits and error, nobody left. After 1.5, the Rangers 7 and the Angels nothing. Text your questions on tonight's game to Mark McLemore at 469-209-2121. And if you read your text on the postgame show tonight, you'll win a $50 sporting goods gift card courtesy of Metro PCS. Luis Alberto Bonilla starts off the bottom of the second inning facing David Freese, and he fires strike one. 7-0 Rangers. It's been all Texas in the first inning and a half as Freese chops the next pitch foul, and the count moves to 0-2. Saw the numbers for David Freese, a 261 average, but in his last 14 games, a 375 mark. Freese trying to finally getting healthy and getting some time in the lineup. You remember we talked about him, the series they had down in Globe Life Park 10 days ago, and he was just getting back into the groove. To right field, going back is Robertson. Daniel still going back, but shy of the warning track, makes the catch and steps onto the center. One gone. Take a look at our Globe Live quote of the game tonight. It comes from the Rangers skipper, Tim Bogar. And I want to see what we saw the other day against Atlanta. And what he did well was spotting his fastball. The Angels would be a bigger test than Atlanta. But it certainly helps having a 7-run advantage to work with. It might make that spotting the fastball a little easier to do consistently. Brennan Bosch, the DH, takes an off-speed pitch for strike one. Bosch, a 179 hitter. Hit his first home run the other night for the Angels. 5 RBI. That's out of play. Bosch trying to work himself back into maybe a postseason situation with the Angels, a pinch hitter, or at least give them an option. Led the Pacific Coast League, as you can see, this year in slugging and on base plus slugging. Oh, and 2 the count. And another foul pop. Beltre over to take a look, but that'll be back 2 rows. Brennan Bosch, a Southern California native, played his collegiate baseball at University of California up north, Berkeley. had a couple of very productive years with the Detroit Tigers and kind of fell in hard times.
Yeah, we said this a couple of times this year that he looked there for a while like he was going to be a fixture in their outfield.
Yeah, or at least a good platoon option for him.
Yeah.
But it's the nature of the game of baseball. If there are plenty of other people hanging around. If you don't produce, you don't have a job very long. He's gone on strikes. Good breaking ball from Bonilla, and he gets his first strikeout. 2 gone, and Hank Conger will be next.
Boy, that's a very nice breaking ball. Sharp breaking straight down.
And that quote you just saw from Tim Bogar, Globe Life quote of the night, spotting the fastball, but also the ability, Tim pointed out, the ability to throw the off-speed pitch early in the count from time to time to really keep hitters from guessing, from sitting on a particular pitch. The fastball outside to Conger.
Well, the better movement that you have, as you know, Buzz, the better the movement on your fastball, the less you have to worry about the hitter sitting on your fastball.
Yeah.
Because he can sit on it, and if it's got good movement and a good location, he might still have trouble hitting it. And it looks like he's got pretty good movement on his fastball.
Sure does. Hank Conger, a .223 average. See what he's done against the Rangers, though, this year. It's been pretty impressive. A couple of RBI. To center field, moving over toward left center. Leonis Martin, and he captures it. That'll do it. So Bonilla and the Rangers have a 1-2-3 second. We'll move on to the third here in Anaheim. It's the Rangers 7 and the Angels nothing. And historic performances. Don't miss all of that in the 2014 Major League Baseball postseason, and that all begins on September the 30th. Check MLB.com for schedules. We kind of had that already in this ball game, at least from the Rangers standpoint. Rangers on top 7-0, 3 in the first, 4 in the second. And we're going to have the third pitcher used tonight by Mike Socias, Yoselan Herrera. 32-year-old right-hander will come on in and take over for Vinny Pestano.
Well, the Angels have 1, 2, 5, 7, 9, 11. They got like 14 pitchers in their bullpen right now. So if there's a team that's prepared to use 7 or 8 different pitchers in a game, it's probably the Angels.
And the numbers for Herrera is 17th appearance for Los Angeles. Jake Smolinski will begin the Ranger third inning. Jake, of course, the 2-run home run that capped off a 3-run first inning. His second big league home run. He's now a .420 hitter for the year. Herrera, a high set, and throws a breaking ball in for strike one. Well, here's the TXU Energy replay of the game, and here is Jake Smolinski against Hector Santiago to left center field. He got that out of the ballpark, his second big league home run. And there was a lot of energy involved in that one. TXU Energy, inspired by you. Down on the count here, though, to Herrera, no balls, 2 strikes. Smolinski now 10 runs driven in. His 50 at bats this year. Pretty good production.
Sure is.
Herrera's 0-2 pitch. Got him swinging. Good sharp breaking ball. And here's the first strikeout of a Ranger tonight. Herrera gets the punch out with 1 away. He'll face Robinson Chirinos.
Yeah, good slider. 0-2 pitch. That's what he's trying to do. Throw it out of the strike zone, see if he can get the hitter to swing at it.
Chirinos 0 for 1 as he flied to right field back in the first inning. 241 average. Career highs, obviously, 11 home runs and 36 runs driven in. 0-1. Robinson, 2 out of 6 on the road trip coming in, although he brings in a 4-game hitting streak overall. And a breaking ball. Nibbles on the inside corner. 0-2. One ball and 2 strikes. Robinson playing in his 5th game since coming back after that bout of a stiff neck that caused him to miss 10 ball games. And in the 4 games prior to tonight, he has driven in 3 runs. Herrera okays the sign, the 1-2 pitch. Shot to first, but Pujols just a step or so to his left. That is out number 2. Chirinos taking that ball the other way, but found leather on Albert's left hand. Now Ryan Rua will come to the plate. Rua started off the Rangers' second with a base hit to center field, came around to score on Daniel Robertson's single. Well, Ryan, a .296 average as he steps to the plate. On this road trip now, Ryan is 4 for 9. Knee-high strike.
Herrera is pumping in some strikes, 7 out of 8 strikes. Good slider, good fastball.
Right-hander, back to the plate. Left field, falling in a hurry. That is down in front of O'Malley, and Rua has his 2nd straight hit. Well, 1 to center, and he just reached out and poked the slider to left field.
Yeah, he's got the knack for putting the bat on the ball. Been up over 70 times. He's only walked 1 time, but he doesn't look like the kind of hitter that swings wildly and helps the pitcher out by swinging at pitches out of the strike zone. Even though he's walked only 1 time, he looks like he gets good pitches to hit. He just hits them when he gets them. He's only struck out 9 times with that many at bats as well.
No, 1 on, 2 out. Rougned Odor, like Rua before it, singled his first time up. The fastball running away for strike 1. Odor, with that base hit, now has the average up to .263 for the year. And he's had to do a lot of work to get that average up. You'll remember it wasn't more than About 2.5 weeks ago, the average down in the mid to upper 240s. Pitch in the dirt, 1 ball, 1 strike. 245, 17 games ago, to be exact. He's gone up to 263 now.
There's a lot of really, really good big league players who were just dreaming about the big leagues when they were 20 years old.
Yeah. You are right about that. A lot of big leaguers that were in college when they were 20 years old.
That's right.
1-1 pitch. A ball and 2 strikes. And Odor showing the ability also to use the field line to line. He has not fallen into being strictly a pull hitter. We saw him plug the alley in left center field a couple of times in Oakland. Almost drive it out of the ballpark to left center. Herrera sets for the 1-2 pitch. And Conger took the brunt of that foul tip. So you want to be a big league catcher, huh?
Well, if you say so, you want to be a catcher, I'd probably say no thanks. But if you said it, you want to be a big league catcher.
There you go.
Well, now I might give it a shot.
Yeah, good point.
I'll take my shot in the big leagues.
Good point.
Ouch.
Right off the. Ugh.
You don't catch frequently in the big leagues if you can't catch while you're hurt.
Free hopper out to Howie Kendrick. That'll do it. Rangers get a hit, but strand a runner. We have played 2.5 at Angel Stadium. It's the Rangers 7 and the Angels nothing on TXA 21. Is sponsored by Sports City Toyota. Log on to sportscitytoyota.com. Now the Rangers behind Luis Alberto Bonilla, leading 7-0 as we head to the bottom of the 3rd inning. Bonilla will face the number 9 man to start things off. That's Sean O'Malley. Then back to the top of the Angel order. Only 2 base runners against Bonilla so far. They were walks in the 1st inning. Back-to-back to Pujols and Kendrick. Sean O'Malley takes strike 1. O'Malley in just 7 games this year at the big league level, a .333 hitter. He's gone 3 for 9. Takes strike 2 as he bluffed a bunt that had Beltre charging down the line from 3rd. Bonilla to the wide, the 0-2 pitch. We'll try it again. O'Malley made his first major league start last night in left field, and Mike Scioscia giving his regulars the night off after clinching the division title the night before. Scioscia said that starting tonight, as you have seen, you'll get the regulars back in there. I wouldn't imagine they would probably play a full game tonight, but he said we'll start ramping it back up so that come a week from Sunday, we're ready to go. And that playoffs would start the following Wednesday, I believe it is, or Thursday.
It seems like it's a tough call for a manager. What do? Do you rest your guys, and then they kind of lose their edge? They lose their momentum. Do you play a regular ball game every day for the next 7 days, and maybe they're a little tired for the postseason? I think it's a pretty good balancing thing for a manager to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Seen in the postseason over the last 5 or 6 years several times where a team wins their playoff series quickly and has to wait 4 or 5 days for the next one to start. And they may have been the best team on the best roll, and when they come back, they're flat. It's not quite the same. Happened to the Tigers a while back.
Right.
I think everybody thought they were the best team that year. But Mike Scioscia knows how to do it. He's been in the playoffs and he's managed in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's done it a few times before with these Angels, so he's probably got a pretty good plan.
Yep.
At least a plan that's out of experience rather than just maybe. O'Malley taking his time getting back in there. Alberto Bonilla, a swing and a miss from O'Malley, and there is a strikeout.
Another good fastball.
Bonilla, yeah.
93 miles an hour with some movement on it.
For the right-hander, that is strikeout number 2, and he's now retired 5 straight after the 2 walks. Go back to the top of the order, Cole Calhoun, who was robbed. A great play by Adam Rosales. A hot smash to Rosales left, and Adam speared it and made the out at first.
Wild card race, everybody's winning tonight. Seattle's 9-3 over Houston, Detroit 10-1 in that big series in Kansas City, and Oakland's leading 3-1 after 6.
This one a little slower roller that Rosales will take next to the bag. I think Adam prefers that one than that smash he had in the first inning.
I think he does too. Although he won't make the highlights after the ball game on that one.
That's true.
He might on the first one. Right off the end of the bat.
No 2 outs here in the Angel 3rd inning. Mike Trout, who had a little limp line drive out to shortstop his first time. 1 ball, no strikes. Talking about the Angels and the postseason. They had not won the division since 2009. 10th time, though, in the 14 years that Mike Scioscia has been here that they've, or I should say the 7th time, I'm sorry, that Mike Scioscia will get him into the postseason. So he's had 6 previous opportunities to play around with it, how to rest guys and how to keep them sharp. Of course, they won the World Championship in 2002. It's the only World Championship the Angels have mustered. 2-0 pitch, and Trout takes a fastball in the inside corner. This is the 2nd earliest juncture of the season that a Mike Scioscia team has clinched the division. Earliest was back in 2008. They clinched it on the 10th of September.
I was listening to Mike Trout on an interview the other day, and the interviewer, I think it was Keith Olbermann, asked him about the high fastball and struggling with it this year. And he says, my biggest problem is swinging at it. I've expanded the strike zone, and I've rushed things, and I've had more strikeouts. And the last 2 fastballs that he took for strikes were strikes, but they were the high fastballs, like he was making an effort to stay off it. But they were both strikes, and they were both caught. 2-2 pitch. Call strike 3.
A nasty hook on the outside corner. And Luis Alberto Bonilla gets a couple of strikeouts. He's now retired 7 in a row. We have finished 3. It's the Rangers 7 and the Angels nothing. September the 25th, that's a Thursday. The Rangers play the A's that night, and the first 15,000 fans, 14 and older, get a Yu Darvish jersey courtesy of Dr. Pepper in Albertson. Get your tickets for the last giveaway night of the year at TexasRangers.com. Now the Rangers again getting out to a very fast start as they did in Oakland yesterday. Jumped out to a 7-0 start here after the first couple of innings. And we head to the fourth, and again, Mike Scioscia going to his well-supplied bullpen. He's come out with a new pitcher here for the fourth inning. It's Cam Bedrosian.
16th game for Bedrosian. ERA's up there a little bit. He's been a little bit wild. 11 walks in 16 innings, but he's also struck out a batter per inning. His dad was Steve Bedrosian.
Yep.
Excellent reliever for a long time.
Well, you would have to think that baseball is in his DNA.
Yes, sir.
Bedrosian, a first-round pick back in 2010. And he deals to Daniel Robertson, low and outside for ball one. Daniel dumped in an RBI base hit to center field his first time up there. Well, Daniel now with 19 runs driven in, a 273 average. Shoots one by Pujols down the right field line. Albert needed a step and a dive, but all he had was a dive. Didn't have time to take the step. Daniel Robertson 2 for 2.
Yeah, Albert catches what he can get to, but doesn't have quite the same agility at first base that Adam Rosales has, for instance.
Big man, so he covers a lot of ground when he dives, but needed that extra step. So 1 on, nobody out. Top of the order for the third time tonight, and that's Leonis Martin, who takes ball one low. Leonis 2 for 2. On with a bunt single his last time up, although he was trying to sacrifice. He did it so well that he was able to leg it out at first. He has scored 2 runs. Now hitting at 283. Good tailing fastball from Bedrosian. And the count moves to 1-1. Cam Bedrosian, after signing, appeared in 5 games in the Arizona League in 2010. Missed all of 2011 with injury problems. It's fouled off. Came back in 2012 was a starting pitcher all in 2012, and then Angels converted him to a reliever in 2013. He has stayed there. 1-2, the count as he faces Leonys Martin. 1 on, nobody out. Two and two. Conger setting that target down and away. The 2-2 pitch. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Well, Leonys trying to get aboard for the 3rd straight time. Elvis Andrus waits to be next. Rangers 7 runs on 9 hits. Daniel Robertson at first with the latest safety for the Rangers, being held on by Albert Pujols. Now there's a contrast. We talk about Mutt and Jeff over there. Albert's a big guy, and Daniel kind of hiding behind him. Bedrosian again set. Robertson on the move. The pitch is fouled away. They'll come back and try it again. Well, the Rangers not content here early to sit on a 7-0 lead, and rightfully so. This is an Angel club that can score a lot. Now, if this were the 6th inning, you might see a different strategy. Right now, trying to add on to that 7-0 lead. Again, Robertson going, and the pitch is skied to shallow left. Long run in for O'Malley. Plenty of time, though, to get there. Sean O'Malley makes the catch. Back to first goes Robertson. And Martin retired for the first time tonight. He's 2 for 3, and next will be Elvis Andrus. Elvis, a sacrifice fly his last time up, driving in his 39th run of the year. So that gives Elvis 5 RBI in his last 6 ball games. Couple of home runs. 264 average as he faces Bedrosian. Fastball for a strike. Looking out at the scoreboard, the Dodgers today beat the Cubs 14-5, and we make that note because Clayton Kershaw won his 20th ball game of the year for the Dodgers. First 20-game winner in baseball.
Ooh, 20-3?
20-3. Yeah. And he was blasted around it. He gave up 3 runs in 7 innings, I think it was.
Boy, they have to do some extra work before it starts.
Yeah, he
straighten that mess out.
Moved his ERA up from 170 to 173. What a year. What a career so far for the young left-hander from Highland Park.
Yeah, a lot of speculation that he might be the Cy Young and MVP winner in the National League.
Pretty tough to say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue against it.
Elvis waiting. Bedrosian gets the sign, a check of first. And the fastball is high. 2 balls and a strike. And they're in the bottom of the 9th now in Kansas City with Detroit hanging on to that 10-1 lead. And that's a big game as far as the Central Division is concerned. Also a big game as far as the wild card is concerned. Kansas City, Oakland, and Seattle beginning the day all within a game of each other in that wild card. And only 2 of them can make it. Oakland leading the Phillies in the 7th inning up north, 3-1. Base hit to right center field. Around second, headed for third. And Elvis is going for 2. The throw into second is not in time. Well, Elvis Andrus plugging that right center field gap. And he is in with the double on to third. Daniel Robertson, the Rangers, staying after the Angels. 34th double of the year for Andrus.
Elvis had to hustle into second base because Trout made a nice play in right center field. Of course, he's got the speed to cut the ball off. But then he wheeled through a pretty accurate throw to second base. Made it a close play. Job by Elvis. Line drive, well hit. Very nice play by Trout, even though he didn't get Elvis at second base.
The Rangers, again, in double figures. And Tom, as you said, that's not the strongest part of Mike Trout's game, throwing, but boy, accuracy is certainly there.
Yeah, you can make up for a little bit of a lack in arm strength by speed, getting to the ball, getting rid of it quickly, and accuracy. It's tough to have all of those components. For the most part, Leonis Martin does. But Trout definitely throws well enough to get the job done out there.
Gonzalez checking his swing. 1 ball, 1 strike. Yeah, Trout, instead of being a 5-tool player, is 4 3/4.
Right, right. It's tough to say he's got, you know, if you call a guy a 5-tool player because those tools are all above average, then I think you probably have a hard time saying it about Trout. His throwing arm is probably not above average. But you might be able to stretch it if you factor in the speed, the accuracy, and getting rid of it, because that's what counts too.
2 balls and a strike. Adam Rosales tonight, 1 for 2. RBI single back in the first. Last time up, he popped out to second. Got Daniel Robertson at third, Elvis Andrus at second. Just 1 out. Angel infield all the way in at the cut of the grass. Bedrosian to the plate. 3 balls and a strike. Bedrosian staring down the barrel of a cocked gun. He's got Rosales at the plate. If he loses him, that brings up Adrian Beltre with the bases loaded. Bedrosian, a long look into Hank Conger. And a strike right on the outside corner. 3-2. Right-hander sets a check of the runners. Breaking ball missed. Outside, ball 4. Rosales, a good job of laying off that pitch. And that indeed loads the bases for Beltre.
Jairo Diaz is starting to get loose out in the Angel bullpen.
Mike Butcher out to talk with Cam Bedrosian. Give Diaz a little more of an opportunity to loosen up in that bullpen also. There's Diaz. Home plate umpire Brian Gorman going to go out and put in his 2 cents worth. And apparently he decided to break the party up. So the base is full with 1 out. Here is Beltre. Adrian has flied out twice to right field, both of them pretty deep. Hit the ball well, but just didn't carry to right or right center tonight. 9 career grand slams for Beltre. He's got the bases full of Ranger teammates. Breaking ball backs him off, catches the inside corner for strike 1. Adrian, a modest 3-game hitting streak coming into play. Oh, 1 pitch. That's out of play to the right. Well, Bedrosian able to get the advantage very quickly at 0 balls and 2 strikes. Rangers now in their last 5 games, actually 4 in less than a half, scored 36 runs. That's one of their better streaks of the season. Base hit to center field. Robertson will score. Elvis around third will score without a throw. Adrian Beltre. A 2-run single. The Rangers lead it 9-0.
Well, there's not much they could do to pitch around Adrian with the bases loaded. Boy, he get on top of that high fastball, rip it into center field. He had one pretty deep the first time up to right field. The second time up all the way to the wall in right center field. And that time just a screaming line drive back up the middle for a couple of RBIs.
Yeah, it might have been a good idea to most hitters, but not to Beltre. That high fastball, and you leave it out there over the plate, he's going to have a pretty good hack at it. But 9 runs on 11 hits. Jake Smolinski takes a knee-high strike, 0-1. Well, Adrian Beltre with his 72nd and 73rd RBI this year. Adam Rosales at second, Beltre at first. Jake Smolinski tonight has homered and struck out. He's had either the penthouse or the basement in 2 at-bats. .412 average, a couple of home runs on his major league resume with 10 RBI. Nothing in 2. Smolinski originally signed with the Rangers last offseason, a minor league free agent. He has put himself right in the conversation with numbers like you just saw with runners in scoring position. Breaking ball, got him looking. That Bedrosian breaking ball looked like it started right at Smolinski and broke to the inside corner. That is out number 2.
Borderline pitch. Top of the strike zone. Barely.
Now Robinson Chirinos for his 3rd at bat. Chirinos has fly to right, line to first. 0 for 2 tonight. A .240 average as he faces Bedrosian. There's a good breaking ball for strike 1. Chirinos getting the opportunity to play on virtually an everyday basis behind the plate. He has made marked improvement. Chopper that Bedrosian will take himself over to first, and that'll do it. So Chirinos chops out. The Rangers, though, add on 2 more runs on 3 hits, and they leave 2. And after 3.5, it's now the Rangers 9 and the Angels nothing. Leaders, the Angels, the Orioles, and the Tigers You go down to the Royals and the Athletics, and Rangers an opportunity to do some damage against three of those, or two of those anyway, with the Athletics and the Angels. But you throw in the Atlanta Braves, who were caught by the Rangers in their hot streak at Globe Life Park. They carried over to the three-game sweep of the Athletics, and it is carried over to tonight's game. Rangers leading 9-0. And maybe, you can say, well, it's too little too late. But, as Tim Bogart said, no matter what, it's a lot more fun to win, no matter what time of year.
That's for sure.
And, to beat some teams that really have a lot to play for, I'm not going to say it makes everybody feel like they're world beaters and this whole year was just a mirage. I mean, it's been a bad year in more ways than one. But at least the ability to play with top teams when they have something to shoot for in September is there. Rangers have answered the bell in more ways than one. Luis Alberto Bonilla fires to Albert Pujols to start off the bottom of the fourth, and this is inside for ball one. Pujols a walk back in the first inning. Bonilla back to him. And Adrian Beltre across the diamond for out number one. Beltre, one all-star, taking care of another. And Pujols retired. Now Howie Kendrick will step in. Kendrick, like Pujols, walked in the first. Those have been the only two base runners allowed by Luis Alberto tonight. Fastball a little bit high and inside for ball one. Bonilla's next pitch. Good breaking ball. 1-1 the count. Howie Kendrick having, in many ways, a career year for himself. 71 RBI are already second most in his career. He's just 4 shy of the mark he set in 2010. Down on the count here, a ball and 2 strikes. That just missed the outside corner. 2-2. Now a full count. Oh, with one out, Kendrick trying to get aboard. He'll be followed by the shortstop, Eric Ibar. Bonilla about ready to throw his 56th pitch of the night. It's low, ball 4. Kendrick draws his second walk. And that snaps a streak of 8 straight sent down by Bonilla.
Well, start against Atlanta, he only gave up 4 hits and a couple of runs. He did walk 4 guys in 6 innings. That's his 3rd walk tonight. Hadn't given up a hit yet, though. They hit a couple of balls, but not much in the way of anything hit hard, except I guess the smash that Calhoun hit. The first base that Adam Rosales made a great play on. That was hit pretty hard.
Rangers had a guy there. First pitch to Ibar, low and inside for ball 1. Eric Ibar, a ground ball to Beltre at third. His first time up there was a little chopper that Beltre made a nice play on. Ibar, the switch hitter, up there from the left side against Bonilla. Double play ground ball to Odor. Andrews back to Rosales. Thank you very much. 4-6-3, and that takes care of the 1-out walk. Well, it turns out 3 up, 3 down. Rangers turning their 141st double play of the year. We finished 4 in Anaheim, 9-0 Rangers. 21 is sponsored by Standard Insurance. Call Standard today. And by Freedom Dodge. Nobody beats a Freedom deal. Nobody. Well, the Hats out here at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. And out in front of the stadium, Jairo Diaz, 22-year-old right-hander, coming out of the bullpen. He becomes the 5th pitcher employed tonight by Mike Scioscia.
We got a great chance to see 9 pitchers tonight, mainly because Hector Santiago only went 1 inning. He pitched in the 2nd inning, but didn't get anybody out.
And Diaz, who originally signed with the Angels back in 2008 as a position player, played a couple of summers down in the Dominican Summer League and hit a total of 157. So
that's not good.
No.
In the Dominican Summer League.
He decided he'd rather go ahead and try to throw a slider instead of hit it.
That doesn't translate into big league success.
But he has moved right on up the Angel Farm System ladder. Now making his first foray into the big leagues this year, and he will face the bottom third of the Ranger order here in the 5th inning. Ryan Rua, Rougned Odor, and Daniel Robertson. Rua to right center field. That is going to be up the alley. It's off the wall. Rua with his 3rd hit of the night. Well, he didn't waste any time. Picked out a pitch and drove it to right center for the 2-base hit.
Well, there's not much more we can say about Ryan Rua other than the same things we've been saying. Very successful in the minor leagues, earned the right to have this opportunity. The Rangers have given him a chance to play virtually every day, and he's responded with good at-bats, good swings. He uses the whole field. He's a line drive hitter with gap power. He takes a nice swing up there. He's got a nice approach to hitting.
That is the dozenth hit tonight for the Rangers. And 9 runs on 12 hits. And Rua in scoring position for Rougned Odor, who is 1 for 2 with a single.
So many times you'll see a hitter go up there and swing at the first pitch from a pitcher he hasn't seen before and be a little late, pop it up, or not really hit the ball with authority. And Diaz tuning the ball up there at 96, 97 miles an hour. Rua just went up there and he did hit the first pitch he saw with some authority. Well, he was geared up for the first pitch even though he'd never seen him before. I guess he could have seen him in the minor leagues, though.
Could have.
Somewhere, sometime.
He sure swung at that like he'd seen him before.
Yeah. That ball had some weird spin on it.
It did.
It went by first base, way foul, and then when Pujols picked it up, it was almost fair. Now, it wouldn't have been a fair ball because it didn't go by first base fair. It must have had some spin on it.
And I think it hit the lip of the grass, too, right there in the winning lane.
Maybe that's what brought it back.
0-2, the count to Odor. Rua getting his lead from second base. And Diaz setting. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Diaz from Puerto La Cruz, Venezuela. Big guy. He's listed at 6 feet, 195 pounds. That may have been a while back.
Before he started getting that Major League game money.
Could have been. It's high and outside. 2-2 now to Odor. Outfield shading Odor slightly around to the left. Infield plays him just about straight away. Pretty good gap in right center. They're trying to cut down that left center field alley. And a chopper to short. Going to third is Rua. He read that well. And on to first, Ibar gets the out. But Rua advances 90 feet. He's now at third with 1 out for Daniel Robertson. So again, a runner at second reading the ball well off the bat. A ball hit almost right at Rua, but he judged the speed the ball was hit with and figured he could make it to third. doing the little things effectively. Daniel Robertson, a pair of singles tonight. He has scored twice, and he has driven in a run. A busy night for the Ranger right fielder. And he hammers this to center field. Backing up Trout, he makes the catch, tagging at third. And jogging down the line to score is Ryan Rua. Daniel Robertson with the RBI, his second of the night. And the Rangers are in double figures. They lead 10-0. Daniel Robertson getting congratulations all around. Now the base is empty, and for the fourth time in 5 innings, Leonis Martin comes to the plate. He takes strike one here.
Diaz fired that fastball in there at 99 miles an hour. Well, all the guys that have been in the big leagues that we haven't seen, we'll see them tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. Pitch outside.
14 bullpen pitchers for the Angels.
That was Drew Rucinski that you saw warming up out in the left field bullpen. 1-1 to Martin. 2 hopper out to Kendrick. That'll do it. Rangers gone in the 5th, but they score a run on a hit. Nobody left. We're halfway through the ballgame. It's the Rangers 10 and the Angels nothing. TX 21 is sponsored by your Texas Ford dealer. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. Well, a very placid, near capacity crowd here at the Angel Stadium tonight. The reason? On your screen, 10-0 Rangers. Luis Alberto Bonilla has been dominant. Ranger offense has been dominant. David Freese leading off the bottom of the 5th inning. Takes strike one. Freese, a fly ball to right in the 2nd. We Freese, Bosch, and Conger to face Bonilla. 1 ball and 1 strike. David Freese, fans remember, maybe not fondly, but from the 2011 World Series, he and his teammate in both places, Albert Pujols, part of that World Championship team for the Cardinals. Bonilla's 2-1. Didn't get a fastball, but he was swinging for one.
That's a good changeup, boy.
When we saw Bonilla in spring training, that was his main pitch, and he didn't have command of the breaking ball in Surprise that he has now. Freeze to right field, hit pretty well. Going back, Robertson, he's at the wall. It's off the wall. Backed up by Leonis Martin. The throw into second is not in time. And there's the first hit of the night for the Los Angeles Angels against Luis Alberto Bonilla.
Something about this stadium, when the balls are hit, they don't look like they're going to go as far as they end up going. I thought that was a catchable ball and just carried all the way and went off the wall. I don't know whether it's the angle, the sound, or what it is. Or me. Must be me. I didn't think he hit the ball that hard.
That hit just up above the padding up there on the scoreboard section, it looked like. Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't think that was going to carry that far. If Beltre's didn't carry as far as I thought it was going to, I'm surprised that did. In any event, Freeze aboard, and now the pitch to Brennan Bosch is a called strike, 0-1. Bosch a strikeout back in the second inning. His average stands at 175. Got a breaking ball that stayed up, fouling it off to the left. 0-2 now. But he had a modest 65 pitches thus far. Works here in the fifth inning. Nobody out. A runner at second. For Bonilla, 37 strikes, 28 balls. So not quite as good a strike to ball ratio as you'd like to see. One and two to Bosch. A very tall left-handed hitter, as you can see, works out of kind of a squat, semi-squat. That ball is pounded to right field. Daniel Robertson watches this one sail up into the bleachers. A two-run home run for Bosch, his second of the year. And it's a 10-2 Ranger lead.
That's one of the longer balls we've seen hit the right field. That went almost down the tunnel, halfway up the massive bleachers out in right field. A fastball up, looked like on the inner part of the plate. There was no doubt about that one. Bosch came into the game only hitting 179 with one home run, but put a charge in that one.
Well, that's the second home run allowed by Bonilla this year. And you're right, that was a no-doubter. Shutout gone right after the no-hitter had left. Here's that sound again. Have I told you how much I hate that sound?
That was that sound. That was it right there, boy. It had a crack to it. He's a big, strong guy. That's his best bolt right there.
I would hope so.
Perfect pitch to hit. He hit it perfectly.
Yep.
Probably could have hit it above the walkway if he hit it a little bit higher.
One ball and two strikes to Hank Conger. Conger, a fly ball to center back in the second inning. Bonilla back to the plate. Hank Conger, the switch hitting catcher, and for a number of years, the story on Conger was he could hit at the big league level, but the defense had been elusive. He has improved significantly. Grounds this one to Rosales. Overhand throw to Bonilla covering. That is out number one. A good job on both ends of that. Rosales making an accurate throw to Bonilla, and Bonilla covering the bag effectively. One away, Sean O'Malley will come up for his second at bat. O'Malley now 3 for 10 in his brief big league career. Fouls that first pitch off to the left and out of play. Bonilla back to the plate. John O'Malley, also a switch hitter out of Richland, Washington. To left field, Rua into foul territory and makes the catch.
Play.
Just before he slammed into the padding. A very nice play by Rua.
Ryan was shaded around that way to begin with, which is why he could get there in the first place. You don't expect someone to be able to catch a ball like that if he's positioned in a normal spot. And as he knew he was going to make contact with the wall, it was slicing toward the wall. And he stayed with it, banged pretty well and pretty hard into the wall. Got a glove off his left arm right now. Hope he's okay.
No, 2 gone. Cole Calhoun now back to the top of the order. Calhoun coming up for his 3rd at bat of the night. Twice he has grounded out to Adam Rosales. Once was a smash and once was a topped ball right at the bag. Unfortunately, that padding is there, and Ryan was able to use it. He was able to make the catch significantly before he got to the padding. Two balls and no strikes to Calhoun. Ryan Rua making the adjustments to play the outfield, to play first base. That's out of play. Down the left side off the bat of Calhoun. 2-1. Cole Calhoun, Arizona State. He was the 8th round selection in 2010. Angels moved him right up the ladder. He made it to the big leagues in 2012. Had a cup of coffee that year and then was up about half the year last season before sticking this year. 10 of 16 hits against the Rangers this season have gone for extra bases. Ahead of the count here, 3-1. Ball 4. 4th walk of the night issued by Bonilla. And that'll bring up Mike Trout. Also bring Mike Maddox out of the Ranger dugout.
No one warming up in the Ranger bullpen. Luis Alberto struggling a little bit this inning. First inning he's been hit at all. Double and a home run. And now his 4th walk. In his start against Atlanta, he had 4 walks and 3 strikeouts in 6 innings. That's what he's got right now. 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. Pitch count's going to be a little bit higher today than it was. Already at 80 pitches. He had 78 pitches in 6 innings in his last start.
Well, here's Mike Trout, who has lined to short and been called out on strikes. First breaking ball to him is low for ball 1. Trout a .288 average. 109 runs scored, that's 2nd in the major leagues. 107 RBI, that is tops in the major leagues. Fouled off to the right, and we get that ball in danger zone down there. It was down just below thigh high, and that is right in Trout's wheelhouse.
That's the hardest fastball that Bonilla's thrown. Got that one. Most of them in 92, 93. That one he popped in there at 95. Mike must have pumped him up.
Trout the walks, 4th in the league, and strikeouts most in the league. The strikeouts have gone up this year. 2-1, the count. Bonilla's pitch. Now 2-2. So Bonilla, a long pitch inning. Still with an 8-run lead, so it's not like he's in jeopardy of giving it all back. But he needs to get Trout here, and he'll have a seat for half an inning. Chirinos flashing the signs out. Bonilla picks out one. Got him swinging. That's a good breaking ball. Trout gone on strike. Second time that he has struck out tonight. The Angels, though, get on the board. 2 runs on 2 hits. They lead 1. And after 5, it's the Rangers 10 and the Angels 2. Tonight's jackpot is worth $1,100 and dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In. Tonight, the Rangers are hitting for Kerry Hoover from Newark, Texas. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Kerry Hoover from Newark, Texas will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Well, the Rangers have been slamming the ball all over the yard. Let's see if they can continue here in the Sonic slam inning. And they will have to do it against yet another pitcher for the Los Angeles Angels. That's Drew Rucinski.
He had a pretty good year. Those are the numbers at Double-A. Double-A Arkansas, 26 games, winning record 10-6, good ERA, a lot of strikeouts. I believe we saw him once in Arlington.
Rucinski out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Ohio State University was his college stop, signed by the Angels in 2011. Actually, he was signed in 2013 by the Angels, minor league free agent. Originally, he signed with the Indians. Facing Elvis Andrus to start things off. Elvis 1 for 2. 0-1. Andrus, a sacrifice fly in the second. Last time up in the 4th. Had a 1-out double and came around to score. And behind in the count here, no balls and 2 strikes. Rucinski, looks like you can see a lot of elbows and kneecaps coming at you if you're a hitter.
He does.
6'2", about 190 pounds. The right-hander back to the plate.
Splitter, it looked like. Bottom dropped out of it. See why he's got a lot of strikeouts at the Double-A level this year. Pitch will strike him out in any league.
Elvis trying to tell Adrian Beltre what that was, and Adrian's still waiting for an answer.
You see what Elvis just made the same motion that Rucinski does, the way he lifts his left arm up high. And Elvis, I think, he just made that same motion to Beltre when he walked by him, as if to say it's a little bit deceptive the way that left arm comes up in the air and kind of hides the ball as he lets go of it.
Get that glove flashing in front of a hitter's eyes.
That's what your eyes focus on that. Guys that are easy to hit, you don't see many of them. The guys that keep their glove hand down low and don't hide the ball. The hitter's able to pick that ball up sooner and see it all the way. Much easier to pick it up against a guy like that.
Rucinski throwing nothing but strikes here. 3 straight to Elvis, now 2 straight to Adam Rosales, and got him down in the count. No balls, 2 strikes. Rosales a base hit and an RBI and 2 official at bats. He's also walked. The 0-2 offering. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Rucinski back to the plate. Got him swinging. Back-to-back strikeouts. 2 gone here in the 6th. And we'll see what Adrian Beltre can do. Adrian, a 2-run single in the 4th inning. Now 73 RBI for the year. And that batting average right where he began this evening at .322.
Rucinski made his big league debut. The only other appearance he had, that was July 10th in Texas. Gave up a couple of earned runs on 4 hits in his 1 inning.
And he's going to give up a base hit here down the line for Beltre. Over to cut it off Calhoun. He will hold Adrian to a long single, but Beltre singles on each of his last 2 times up. He is 2 for 4, and he prolongs this 6th inning. Jake Smolinski now will come in. That's 3 times tonight that Adrian has driven the ball well to right field.
There aren't many guys in the league that can drive it the opposite way with authority better than Adrian. Rucinski just got called up after pitching in the Texas League playoffs. He won game 1 of the Texas League playoffs. 7 shutout innings in that game.
Jake Smolinski, a home run his first time up, 2-run shot. Next 2 times up, striking out. 1 for 3, hitting at .404. Up the middle, Ibar. Little backhanded flip to Kendrick. Nice play. Ibar and Kendrick have done that a few times before. Well, the Rangers 6 comes to a close. No runs, a hit, and 1 man left after 5.5. It's the Rangers 10 and the Angels 2. is sponsored by Freedom Chevrolet. Nobody beats a Freedom deal. Nobody. Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. 10-2, the Rangers leading the Halos. Luis Alberto Bonilla's night is finished. And Phil Klein, big tall right-hander, on the hill now.
Yep, Phil Klein continuing to get good opportunities and take advantage of them. This will be his 16th game since he was recalled from the minor leagues. And he's pitched well. Opponents have only hit 172 against him. He's got a good combination of 93-mile-an-hour fastball and a slider. Keep talking about pitchers and the deception and making it hard for the hitter to pick up the ball. He appears to do that himself. And frequently you'll see his 93-mile-an-hour fastball swung out like maybe it's a 96 or 97-mile-an-hour fastball. So he's got that working for him. And he's been doing a good job.
Phil Klein now will face the heart of the Angels order. Albert Pujols, Howie Kendrick, and Eric Ibar. Alberto Bonilla. 5 innings of work tonight. Just 2 hits, 2 runs. They both came on the Brennan Bosch 2-run homer. 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. And learning every time out. That's what Tim Bogart has stressed for all the players, pitchers included in that. Get the opportunity and regardless of the outcome, learn something from it. Well, here's Pujols, who is 0 for 1 officially. Walked in the first, grounded out in the 4th inning. Klein's first pitch is in at the belt, 0-1. .272 the average for Albert Pujols. One ball and 1 strike. Phil Klein, you remember, out of Youngstown State University in Ohio. .6'7" right-hander going back to work. The 1-1 to Pujols. Broken bat grounder to Elvis in the hole. 1 gone. Well, Klein got Pujols to kind of roll over and reach for that one. Busted his bat, got the out. Now he'll face Howie Kendrick.
Kendrick walked in both of his plate appearances. Bonilla pitched 5 innings, walked 4, struck out 4. Only gave up a couple of hits, but it was a double and a home run in the same inning.
Kendrick didn't advance any further than first base after the 2 walks. Last time up, his walk was with 1 out. He was erased on a double play. Phil Klein misses high for ball 1. Kendrick, a .291 average. He has scored 84 runs for the Angels this year. 1 ball and 1 strike. Now Klein able to throw both the fastball and slider at will, and boy, what a weapon that is. We have good command of both of them. It's just a matter of working to whichever side of the plate you want to. Got that fastball in on Kendrick, and that's fouled away down the right side. A lot of guys, though, that have made a pretty good living with a good fastball and a good slider. And like you were saying, Tom, it looks like Phil Klein has that added amount of deception that makes it tough for a hitter to react. When you only see him 1 time, I would think that's even tougher.
Yeah, I've seen, and you've seen, plenty of guys throw 96 miles an hour that get bombarded because the hitter picks the ball up and it's straight. And they just tee off like it's batting practice. You see other guys like Phil who have a little something more going for them, and they don't need that 97-mile-an-hour fastball.
He took a little bit off the slider there and got the punch out. Kendrick gone. Very quickly 2 away, and Eric Ibar will be next.
That almost looked like a curveball.
Yeah.
Slower slider. Kendrick chased it, was well out of the strike zone.
Ibar tonight, 2 ground outs, 1 to third and 1 to second. Ground ball he hit to Odor at second turned into a double play. And the first pitch to him is inside for ball one.
You come in for your relief appearance and you face Pujols, Kendrick, and Ibar. 3 hot hitters right in the middle of the lineup. 3, 4, 5.
You get those guys in order, you end up feeling pretty good about yourself after you walk off the hill. 2-0 though to Ibar here. Eric Ibar, a .281 average. Phil Klein studying the signs. Now to the plate. 2-1. The final from Houston, the Mariners did what they had to do down in Houston. They defeated the Astros 10-5 tonight. Mariners, you'll remember, started the evening just a game behind Oakland. Pitch pulled well foul down the right side in that wild card race. Oakland also continuing to lead Philadelphia 3-1 now. They play in the 8th inning up the coast. It's going to be a pretty interesting finish to that wild card. 2-2 pitch. That'll run the count to 3-2. So Ibar trying to extend this 6th inning against Phil Klein. If he gets aboard, David Freese, the third baseman, is going to be next. I mentioned the wild card coming into play tonight. Kansas City had a half-game lead over Oakland. With Kansas City's loss now, that is a dead heat for the top spot in the wild card. And both of them began play tonight with a 1-game lead over Seattle, but Kansas City's lead over Seattle has evaporated. So they, in effect, are tied with Oakland a half game ahead in the wild card. Payoff pitch coming to Ibar. And we'll come back and try it again. Over the National League, it's a little less complicated. San Francisco and Pittsburgh in that order, 1 and 2 in the wild card, and the Pirates with a 3.5 game lead over in Milwaukee and a 6-game lead now over Atlanta. You remember when Atlanta came into Globe Life Park, they were trailing by 1.5 games? Yeah. And they have just been devastated.
Well, if they don't win, they'll cite that series as a big reason why. If the Mariners don't go to the postseason, they'll look at their record against the Rangers and see a pretty good reason.
That's right.
Why.
Well, Phil Klein loses Ibar on a 3-2 pitch and 1 on, 2 out. David Freese is 1 for 2 tonight. Will step to the plate. Freese drove a double off the wall in right field his last time up. Well, Freese a .262 average. Ibar a short lead at first. Freese takes low and outside for ball 1. David Freese also now has increased his hitting streak to 9 straight. He is 11 for 29 over those 9 games. He's also had 10 RBI in his last 10 ball games. Line misses outside, 2-0, and Chirinos going to go out and see if he can get the big right-hander to get back in the strike zone. Rangers tonight, 10 runs on 13 hits. They have stranded just 4 runners. The Angels, meanwhile, 2 runs on 2 hits. They've had 5 walks. They've left 3 aboard. (2-0) coming to Freese. 3 balls and no strikes. All of a sudden, this has kind of turned into a long inning for Phil Klein. He got the first 2 outs rather quickly in a 7-pitch at bat to Ibar. Now the 3-0 to Freese, way inside. Back-to-back walks with 2 outs. Mike Maddox will make a trip to the mound here. Action now just starting out in the Ranger bullpen. Left-hander Robbie Ross Jr. loosening in a pretty big hurry. Phil Klein has had to throw 19 pitches and the 2 walks. Got increasingly more out of the strike zone as he delivered each pitch. Mike Maddox out there to try to slow things down for him, give him an opportunity to get that focus back on throwing quality strikes. So 2 on, 2 out. Brendan Bosch now coming to the plate. Bosch hit a long home run his last time up. A 2-run blast was off Luis Alberto Bonilla. He will be up here in the 6th inning with Ibar at second, Freeze at first. Bosch now with the average at 190 for the year. Was thinking first pitch fastball and didn't get it. And slider down and in. It's 0-1. 2 home runs, 7 RBI for Bosch. Rangers play the left-handed hitter, swung well around to the right, both infield and outfield. One and one now. Bosch was 2 for 3 in last night's ball game, so he's gotten things going on a pretty good roll. And Klein missing badly outside. 2 and 1.
Yeah, this is something we haven't seen from Phil. A command issue like this,
right?
For, an extended number of pitches anyway. He's generally been right around the plate. Now he's thrown 22 pitches and only 10 of them have been strikes. Just got a little bit out of whack and having a hard time finding it again.
The 2-1. That is low. 3 balls and a strike. Klein within 1 pitch of loading him up on walks. Hank Conger, the catcher, is waiting in the on-deck circle. And Mike Maddox giving counsel to Tim Bogart. Bosch stepping back in. Klein okays the sign. The 3-1 pitch. Bosch pounding that right off of his right leg.
That was not a real good pitch, but I think in that situation he was going to expand the strike zone and try to do what he could with whatever he got to hit. Ball had to be 6 inches inside.
Yeah, he's probably real sorry right now that he expanded that strike zone.
Yeah, he'll be real sorry here if he makes it out. Could have had a walk.
So 3 and 2, both Ibar and Freeze will be off and moving with the next Klein offering. Phil is set. A check of the runners. They are on the move. The payoff pitch. Got him swinging. And up with a fastball, and Bosch, expanding the strike zone, goes down on strikes. And the Angels strand both walkers. 2 left the board. Will go to the 7th. 10-2 Rangers. September the 26th. Following the game against the A's, fans will be treated to a spectacular fireworks show, and that's thanks to our friends at the Big Green Egg. $15 tickets in the upper reserve section are available. Just go to TexasRangers.com/specials, and you can use the coupon code FIREWORKS to get your tickets. Now on we go to the seventh inning now, and a lot of changes for the Angels. We'll fill you in as we go through this inning. But no change on the mound.
It's going to be just like a spring training game.
Yeah.
Pitching and position players.
Drew Rucinski back out after working the sixth inning.
Well, Rucinski, again, has been a starting pitcher all year in the minor leagues, so a little extended outing for him out of the bullpen is a piece of cake. And he threw great last inning. Had a couple of strikeouts.
Robinson Chirinos tonight 0 for 4. He has flied out, lined out, and grounded out tonight. Pretty good breaking ball from Rucinski. And the count is 0-2. Back to the plate. And he misses high. Got him swinging. Rucinski with his third strikeout in 5 hitters. 1 gone, and Ryan Rua coming up. Probably hear the PA system here in the booth detailing all the changes. It's kind of like a spring training game.
I think they're going to have a new person in every spot.
Probably. Now 1 out. Ryan Rua, a perfect night, 3 for 3. He takes strike 1 at the knees. Rua has singled twice and doubled. He has scored twice tonight. Now hitting at .315 for the season.
The guys that might stay in there, Sean O'Malley might stay in there. Bosch might stay in there, younger guys. Getting the starters out of there, though, for sure.
Rucinski into the wind, the 1-1 pitch. Takes a strike. Got him swinging. Well, Rucinski's throwing well enough, even Ryan Rua couldn't figure him out.
Well, he's thrown pretty well. He struck out 2 in the 6th inning, and he's got the first 2 here in the 7th inning. And you could tell the Rangers are having a hard time picking the ball up. First time they've seen him coming up from the minor leagues. But those are the Rangers who make the team next year and play in the big leagues will probably see him in the future. He looks like a big leaguer all the way out there.
2 up, 2 away on strikeouts. Here's Rougned Odor. Odor, a single and a run scored in the 2nd. Since then has grounded out twice, once to short and once to 2nd. Odor now hitting at .261 as Rucinski comes back to him. 1 ball and 1 strike. Rangers and Angels back here tomorrow night. It's an earlier start, an hour earlier, 8 o'clock Central Time. Tim Bogar will have Colby Lewis on the hill, and Jared Weaver getting a start. The Angels had Weaver skip a couple of days, line it up so that Weaver would make 2 more starts before the end of the season and be ready to open up the playoffs. That's the advantage of clinching when they did. They could set up their pitching rotation any way they desired. Inside to Odor. It's 2-2. That's an 8 o'clock game tomorrow night. And then on Sunday afternoon, be a 2:30 game. Nick Tepesch and Corey Rasmus. 2-2 pitch. That runs the count full.
A great note from Brian Hagan, our ace statistician. 9 Texas Rangers have had a 4-hit game within their first 14 career games all time. 2 of the 9 have done it this year and are in the lineup. Rougned Odor and Jake Smolinski.
Yep. Good note. Good note, Brian. Very good. We saw that one from Jake the other night up in Oakland.
That's right.
Payoff pitch coming to Odor. Not to short. That's the new shortstop, John McDonald. And Odor out by a half a step. And the Rangers, for the first time tonight, are gone in 1-2-3 fashion. Stretch time in Anaheim. The Rangers 10 and the Angels 2. TXA 21 is sponsored by Honda. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda now at your Honda dealer. And by Frost. Visit frostbank.com. Now Robbie Ross Jr. into the ballgame to take over here in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Last time we saw Robbie, he got a win. He came in and did a nice relief job. Came in 1 inning, got out of a major jam, and came back out the next inning and got him out. Did a great job.
That was the Wednesday night game in Oakland. The Rangers put up 6 runs in that top of the 9th inning to really crush the dreams of the Oakland days.
Yeah, Robbie had his adrenaline flowing. He was pumped up in that game.
John Buck up there for his first at-bat. In the place of Hank Conger. Buck, of course, the veteran backstop. 0-2 the count. Ross back to the plate. Buck, a .218 hitter. A home run, 6 driven in. One ball and 2 strikes. Now, Robbie came into that 8th inning, and that was the inning that the A's had loaded the bases with nobody out. And Robbie got the last 2 outs on a couple of pop-ups, and that turned out to be a huge pair of outs that he was able to get. Rangers came back to scorch him. That ball was scorched right back to the middle by John Buck. A line drive right by the left ear of Robbie Ross for a leadoff single. Now 1 on, nobody out. That'll be the number 9 hitter, Sean O'Malley. O'Malley will turn around to hit from the right side. O'Malley this evening 0 for 2, a strikeout and a foul out. Ball gets back to you pretty quick. High chopper out towards short. All they'll get is 1 at the force at second. Buck removed. That is out number 1. O'Malley now at first. And back to the top of the Angel order. And it'll be Gordon Beckham for his first at bat. Gordon Beckham, the former White Sox third baseman, over here with the Angels now. And some depth to the infield. .222 average for the year, 8 home runs, 43 driven in. And he skies one to right center. Daniel Robertson drifting over to his right, makes the grab. Beckham retired, 2 gone, with O'Malley staying at first.
First baseman, number 20, C.J.
Next will be C.J. Crone. Of course, Mike Socia couldn't make it easy, just make it straight up changes. He had to switch everything around.
That's the Buck Showalter way. I like the Ron Washington way.
I do too.
Everything was always straight up.
That's right.
Someone came into the game, you knew where he was hitting.
Now, C.J. Crone, who played havoc with the Rangers earlier in the year, hasn't seen a whole lot of playing time lately. Swing and a miss. It is 0-1. And the pitch foul back. No balls, 2 strikes. Crone against the Rangers this year, a .370 average. He had 3 home runs, 5 RBI, 27 at bats. Ross back to the plate. That is shot foul off the screen in front of the Ranger dugout. Still 0-2. Crone this year up and down between the Angels and AAA Salt Lake City 3 different times. Look out. A little looper in foul territory. There's a bat. Went a lot further than the ball, and that's back into the seats over the Angel dugout.
Like no one was hit, everybody's happy. A baseball bat in the stands can lead to a great tug of war. You get 2 24-year-old guys, a couple beers under their belt. Both of them weigh about 200 pounds. One's got one end, one's got the other, and they both want that bat. You can't really tug on a baseball, but man, you could have fun with a bat.
Hit well to center field. Leonis Martin going back at the track, reaches up, can't get it. Off the wall, around third, Sean O'Malley will score, and C.J. Crone does it again to the Rangers. An RBI double, that cuts the lead to 10-3.
Well, the Angels traded Mark Trumbo last year, and we were talking about C.J. Crone at the beginning of the year, how much he resembles Mark Trumbo. Trumbo was a guy that could make contact on pitches that you didn't think he would normally hit. Watch this pitch. A breaking ball down around his ankles, way out of the strike zone. So fine, you make contact with it, but he made contact and drove it about 395 feet to dead center field. He's got some power, got the same ability to make contact on pitches that you don't normally see someone hit that far.
Well, Robbie Ross now trying to escape without any further damage done. Efren Navarro goes after that first pitch and fouls it off to the left, 0-1. Navarro, a .245 hitter, the home run and 14 driven in. Angels now with 4 hits tonight. They trail 10-3 in the run column. Ross a check of second, the 0-1 pitch, and nothing in 2. Navarro, as of this at bat, sitting on an 0-for-9 streak. Robbie Ross trying to make that an even 0-for-10 and get out of this inning.
Navarro's got a little bit of a Will Clark look to him up there. Will used to hold the bat high, and kind of a relaxed little wiggle, smooth swing. I'd be surprised if Navarro saw him play as a kid. Tried to practice his swing.
Should try to practice the results.
Well, he's working on that. Give him some time.
Outside now, 2-2. Robbie about ready to throw his 18th pitch of the inning. Got Crone at second base with 2 outs. A run across. Base hit to center. Crone will come around third. The throw from Martin to the plate. They've got a shot at him. He is out at home plate.
Take a ride on that throw. That might be his best one of the year.
A bullet from medium center field in the air on the money.
He launched that thing. That was just as accurate as a pitch to the plate.
And Mike Scioscia out to examine things with Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire. And they are going to challenge this one. The call on the field is out. And Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire, right on top of it and making the call as Robert Chirino stayed with that tag nicely.
What a throw. A heck of a cutoff, man. I'm going for the out.
If he got that hand in there sliding by, it was probably before the tag. The question was, did he get that hand in there?
Yeah, boy, that's close.
That is close, isn't it?
That's very close.
Well, the Brian Gorman, who made the call, and Jim Wolf, the third base umpire, on the headsets to the replay command center in New York. Umpire and crew back there making the determination after they look at all the replays available to them. But that doesn't take away from a great throw by Leonis Martin. And the call out at home, he is out. Well, the call upheld in New York, and the inning comes to a close. Leonis Martin with the assist. The Angels get a run on a couple of hits and leave one. And after 7, it's now the Rangers 10 and the Angels 3. cars of McKinney. Moving on to the 8th inning, Daniel Robertson to start things off. Drew Rucinski back out there. Rucinski has struck out 4 in the first 2 innings that he has worked here tonight, giving up 1 base hit, and Daniel Robertson takes a breaking ball. It is 1-0. Back to the plate, Rucinski misses high. 2 balls, no strikes. John Buck remaining in the ball game behind home plate. There's the new battery made of Drew Rucinski.
Rucinski got through 2 innings. He struck out 4. He only threw about 24 pitches.
Up the middle, that's off Rucinski. It goes over to third. The off-balance throw by Beckham in time. And Robertson is out. And Rucinski, well, he's walking around rather gingerly, but I think he's okay.
Well, that's getting robbed of a base hit. That was a well-hit ground ball headed straight up the middle. Then you get the carom. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. That one caromed right straight to Beckham, who's played a lot of second base and fielded it on the run with no problem with something on it. Made a beautiful play over to first base.
Boy, that was too. Goodness. So a 1-5-3 put out. And Leonis Martin takes outside for ball 1. Martin 2 for 4. Singled his first 2 times up. Since then has flied to right and grounded to second. Out of play to the left. One more look at that throw from Gordon Beckham. Or, excuse me, from Leonis Martin.
A throw. It's not a pitcher winding up, throwing a strike to the plate. Only he threw it from about 280 feet out there.
Popped up foul territory. Beckham head over heels into the commissioner's box down there. He's okay.
Made a Derek Jeter try for
He
that
did.
one. One thing he had going for him is every place where he jumped was padded.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean the fall can't do some damage to you. He gave it up, boy. But not like in our park. You try to jump in our park and hit that cement side of the wall, and you're going to be in trouble. And there's no one sitting there either. Good hustle, good try.
Sure was. 1-2 pitch now. 2-2. Leonis 7 home runs, 39 driven in. Rucinski with the 2-2 pitch. A little further down the left field line. O'Malley right alongside the wall and can't get it. I'll tell you what, Leonis Martin is putting balls very close to the field of play.
He's trying to get someone hurt.
Yeah, he's trying to run Mike Socha out of third baseman and outfielders.
Well, we've already seen Ryan Rua make a play similar to that. He had to run over near the side of the wall there and catch one.
Gordon Beckham going for that first foul ball and reaching over and making a pretty good catch. How about that?
I didn't see that.
I didn't
No
either.
wonder Beckham didn't catch it. There's no ball to catch.
There's a towering drive, well hit to right field. Going back is Navarro on the warning track and makes the catch. See, I thought that ball was hit a lot better than the double that Freese hit out there that went off the wall.
I did too. I can't judge him going out that way at all.
Apparently I can't either. No, 2 gone. Elvis Andrews, the schedule hitter, pulled back. Wilder Rodriguez is going to come up and have a shot at Drew Rucinski. Wilder getting an opportunity to get some big league time in after 1,095 minor league games in his career.
One thing Tim Boger can't do, Tim Boger can't unload the bench. He doesn't have one. He's got the same bench he would have had in July 4th.
And Rodriguez skies to pretty deep right field, but stays shy of the warning track. And the Rangers again gone in 1-2-3 fashion. We have finished 7.5. It's the Rangers 10 and the Angels 3 on TXA 21. 24th. The Astros are in town, and Rangers playing their final game against the Astros. It's also the final Nolan Ryan Beef Dollar Hot Dog Night at Globe Life Park. So don't wait. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com, or you can call 972-RANGERS. Now, bottom of the 8th inning, the Rangers have a 7-run advantage over the Angels, 10-3, and John Edwards from Keller, Texas, on the hill to work to the Angels. John Edwards in his 9th ball game this year. .491 earned run average in 7 1/3 innings, 7 strikeouts. And the first pitch to Grant Green is outside for ball 1. Green with his first at bat of the night. Green a .287 average with a home run and 11 driven in. 1-1. Line on Robbie Ross tonight. 1 inning, 3 hits, and a run. It was earned. No walks, no strikeouts. And John Edwards unleashes one to the backstop. It's 2-1. John, the 6'5" right-hander, 26-year-old. Remember, he originally signed with the St. Louis organization as a position player, and after a couple of years in the minor leagues, decided that he too would like to go to the mound instead of having to face the guys on the mound. 2011 made that determination and went to a couple of stops in independent league ball and signed the next year with the Rangers. Swung on and missed by Green, and a good off-speed pitch by John Edwards, strikeout number 1.
Center fielder, number 22, Tony Campana.
Now Tony Campana will come up.
He followed a 94-mile-an-hour fastball up with that slider, I guess, breaking straight down and at the bottom of the strike zone. Got Green to, all he could do is wave at it.
Campana, a .250 average in limited time. Takes a strike at the knees.
We were talking about Campana when we saw him in Texas. Never saw him play, but the way he's got his uniform, the way his body looks, you just predict this guy can run. If that guy can't run, no one can.
Yeah. Looks like a greyhound in white and red. And John Edwards trying to make sure he doesn't have a chance to use that speed here in the 8th inning. Breaking ball, and that's just off the inside corner. 2 balls and a strike. Edwards back to the plate. Your comparison to what he looks like to Peter Borges, I agree with you 100%. A spitting image.
Yeah, I think a lot probably has to do with the way they wear their uniform. You know, they wear their pants up high. I'm pretty sure Borges did that too. I think it's a way to wear your pants if you can really run. Makes you look even faster. It's like wearing white shoes.
Yeah. Pulled foul outside first, and not by much.
Man. If it wasn't against John and the Rangers, I'd like to see that, just see how fast he can get to third base.
If that had been fair, Daniel Robertson's playing over in right center field. He must be 50 yards off the line. That might have been inside the Parker.
It would have been interesting. I wouldn't throw him an off-speed pitch the way the outfielders are playing. I don't think I've ever seen the right fielder play where he's playing.
Another 2-2 pitch. Full count. Robinson Chirinos says, here, give me this one right here. Payoff pitch. Broken bat looper into center. That's going to be a base hit. And Campana aboard, and we might get an opportunity to see him run a little bit. He's going to have to use a different bat, though, the next time he comes to home plate, because that one's not going to work.
Definitely got that in on his fist.
So half a dozen hits now for the Angels here tonight. Rangers about hit them 13-6, and they lead 10-3. John McDonald, veteran infielder, fouls off that first pitch, 0-1. McDonald just a 151 average with 4 RBI. And his strong suit is playing defense. Left center field, not hit very well. That's going to fall for a base hit. So back-to-back looping singles, and the Angels have something going here in the 8th inning. 2 on and 1 out. Brennan Bosch coming up again. McDonald found an empty spot out there in left center field. So Campana and McDonald at second and first. Brennan Bosch, a home run in 3 trips tonight. 2-run home run back in the 5th inning. John Edwards firing strike 1. Other than the home run, Bosch has struck out twice. One and 1 now. Edwards peering in for the sign. Robinson Chirinos flashing out a few. And a pop-up, foul territory. Beltre over at the railing, reaches in and can't quite get there. Adrian sharing a lighter moment with Jim Wolf, the third base umpire. That went right off the tip of his glove, didn't it?
Looked like it. Yep.
I think Adrian looking at his glove like, what happened? I thought I had that. No, 1 and 2 to Bosch. Campana at the bottom of your screen getting his lead from second. He is trailed by McDonald over at first. Edwards now sets. Check swing. The ball gets by Chirinos all the way to the backstop. Well, both Campana and McDonald advance 90 feet. And we'll see how that's scored. Don't know that it necessarily got into the dirt. And it's going to be scored a wild pitch. I think Robinson will tell you that's a ball he should catch.
So he kind of tried to backhand it instead of have the pocket of his glove pointed upwards.
2 and 2 now, the count to Bosch. So the possibility of a ground ball double play is nearly non-existent. Got him swinging. Good breaking ball down and in. Big strikeout for Edwards. His second punch out of the inning. There are now 2 gone. And he'll face John Buck.
He'd seen a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And he fished for that slider that was way out of the strike zone. That was a much more difficult ball to block for Robinson, but after letting one get by, he wasn't going to let that one get by.
Yeah. So here's Buck, who singled his first time up. Came up as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning for Hank Conger. Buck, a 227 average. The first pitch is low and outside for ball one. Buck signed a minor league deal with the Angels back on July 21st. Played at Salt Lake City and came up on the 7th of September. Line drive. What was Adam doing?
He was, in case he had to jump, he was jumping. He almost jumped and got hit in the kneecap.
Well, that'll do it. John Edwards able to work around a couple of singles. 2 left to board. We're going to the 9th inning in Anaheim. The Rangers leading 10-3. The 9th inning here in Anaheim, and it will be Rosales, Beltre, and Smolinski to face Drew Rucinski. Rucinski has come on to restore some order as far as the Angels are concerned. He's retired 7 straight. He has worked 3 scoreless innings, just 1 hit given up. And the first pitch to Rosales, the jumping man. It's outside and low for ball 1. Adam 1 for 3 officially tonight. A walk and a single, also an RBI and a run scored. Pops up the second pitch. C.J. Cron, the first baseman, near the Ranger dugout, makes the grab. That is out number 1. Next will be Adrian Beltre.
Well, Rucinski came in the 6th and looks like he's going to pitch the rest of the ball game. 4 innings. Done a great job. He's only given up 1 hit. That was a base hit by Beltre.
And the aforementioned Adrian Beltre will try it again. In fact, Adrian was the last one to reach base against him. Beltre 2 for 4, a .324 average. Backs away from a breaking ball. It's in for strike 1. Alex Claudio in the Ranger bullpen. Looks like he's getting ready to pitch the bottom of the 9th inning. One and one to Beltre. Well, he had a hanger and just a little late pulling the trigger. That's well down the right side, but well back and out of play. 1 and 2. That's where this one is. Ooh.
He's still smiling.
Yeah. And the pitch inside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Brzezinski has retired the last 8 that he has faced. Now 3-2. Jake Smolinski waiting in the on-deck circle. He is the Ranger DH tonight. Brzezinski with a payoff pitch. Ball 4. Beltre draws the 1-out walk. That's just the second walk issued tonight by Angel pitching, and Beltre down to first is going to be removed, it looks like, for a pinch runner. I believe that's going to be Luis Sardinas, who will come on as a pinch runner for Beltre, and no doubt remain in the ball game to take over at third defensively. A 1-on, 1-out. Jake Smolinski 1 for 4 tonight. But that one was a first inning 2-run home run that really got things going for the Rangers. He takes a fastball right down the middle. Smolinski now at 396. First time he faced Brzezinski, grounded into a fielder's choice. Brzezinski getting it up there pretty good, 93 miles an hour in that last one. Down in the strike zone. Right-hander is set once again. 1-2. In the 9th inning now with Rangers leading by 7. Luis Sardinas at first, not held on by C.J. Cron, the first baseman. No. And that'll cut down on Sardinas trying to advance. Got him swinging. What a nasty breaking ball. And that is strikeout number 5 for Rucinski. 2 away. And Robinson Chirinos will be next.
Yeah, Rucinski's making a very nice impression on Mike Scioscia tonight. Glad he didn't start the game for the Angels.
I've seen a couple of different kinds of breaking balls. A good split-fingered pitch. This is for a changeup. Robinson Chirinos struck out the first time that he faced Rucinski. That was back in the 7th. 1 ball, no strikes. Robinson 0 for 4 tonight. Along with that strikeout, he has flied out, lined out, and grounded out. To the gap in left center field, that is up the alley, going to the wall. Sardinas turning on the speed around third. Here comes the throw to the plate. He is safe, standing up. And a double for Robinson Chirinos. Puts another run on the board for the Rangers. It's now 11-3.
Oh, the Rangers finally get to Rucinski. John McDonald got rid of that relay throw about as quickly as you possibly could. Wasn't able to get much on the throw, but it was accurate. And he almost gunned down the runner at the plate, Sardinas. We can see that play. Watch when the cutoff throw comes in to the shortstop. Watch how quickly McDonald gets rid of the ball. And it's one hop right on the plate. Every time you show a replay like that, you just see how great big league players are.
And one thing that Ryan Ruha is at the plate now will be told about, though, is when you're the on-deck man, there's a play at the plate, you've got to be the base coach.
Absolutely.
Tell the guy to slide, because the guy coming down from third can't tell where the throw is. 0-1 to Ruha, who is 3 for 4 tonight. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ryan, a .311 average. He's got Chirinos out at second. 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning. A run across. 2-1. Brzezinski, who just got into town today, maybe hitting that wall a little bit. Tom told you he'd been pitching at the Double-A playoffs. 2-1. Still brought his pretty good breaking ball with him.
He did.
Brzezinski set, a check of Chirinos. And Rua fouls off that fastball. Rangers now 11 runs on 14 hits tonight. They continue the offensive resurgence in the last week. They've now scored 40 runs in the last 5 ball games. Up the middle, into center field, a base hit. Chirinos around third will score without a throw. Ryan Rua with his 4th hit of the night. And the Rangers have put 12 on the board. They lead 12-3.
What's that note that Brian gave us a little while ago?
Add one more.
4-hit game within their first 14 career games. 9 times. Well, now it's 10. I think this is within 14 games.
Yeah, I'm going to check that.
It might be close. He might not be within 14 games.
Well, you can still add him to the list anyway.
Yeah, he's got 4 hits, though.
We can take him off later if necessary.
What a nice game for Ryan. Boy, he's had some good swings tonight.
Tonight's 19.
19? Okay, sorry.
So in the first 19 games. And first ball swinging, Hugnet Odor pops it up to shortstop McDonald, and that will do it. 9th inning comes to a close. The Rangers add on 2 more on a couple of hits. They strand 1. Bottom of the 9th coming in Anaheim. The Rangers 12 and the Angels 3. Is sponsored by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your Texas Ford dealer today. Ford is the best in Texas. By Globe Life, the official life insurance company of the Texas Rangers. And by TXU Energy, inspired by you. Now, bottom of the 9th inning, it has been all Rangers tonight. They lead 12-3, and Alex Claudio has been asked now to pitch the bottom of the 9th inning here this evening.
Oh, Alex Claudio has pitched in 12 ball games. We've seen him throw that really 13th ball game tonight at 3.72 ERA. Sean O'Malley will be the first one to see that change up.
We'll see how Sean O'Malley deals with it. Yeah, he gets a strike on the first pitch. It is 0-1.
Should have swung at that one, Sean.
Yeah, he may or may not know about it. Probably knows about it, but I don't think he's seen it. Yeah, another fastball, and he's down on the count, 0-2. O'Malley 0 for 3 tonight. He has struck out, fouled out, and been on via a fielder's choice. Claudio back to the plate.
Oh boy, he aired it out.
He's
tonight.
bringing the heat.
There's no way he could be ready for a changeup right now, unless he's seen it before.
There it is. And he just did get a piece of it.
He did pretty good to foul it off. I didn't think he'd even be able to foul it off. If he kept it down, I don't think he would have.
It's been 5 days now since Claudio last pitched. His last outing was against the Braves. Worked an inning, gave up a couple of runs on 3 hits. So back out there tonight trying to work an uneventful bottom of the 9th inning. 2-2 to O'Malley. Fastball called, strike 3. O'Malley got caught in that trap of change-up fastball and couldn't react to it.
Low fastball, probably right at the bottom of the inside part of the strike zone. Caught the lower right quadrant.
O'Malley thought about arguing. He said, no, it's not worth it. Not 12-3. Now back to the top of the Angel order, and Gordon Beckham, who is 0 for 1 since coming into the ball game in the 7th inning. Beckham flied to right field his first time. Claudio with the 1-0 pitch. Ground ball cut off by Rodriguez, the third baseman. And Wheelder fires across the diamond. That is out number 2. Claudio gets the first 2 Angels, and now it'll be C.J. Cron. Cron also came into the game in the 7th inning, had an RBI double in that frame. 272 average. Change up first pitch. That floats outside for ball 1. One ball, 1 strike. Well, again, the Rangers and Angels tomorrow night. I mean, 8 o'clock start, an hour earlier tomorrow evening. Colby Lewis, Jared Weaver. Battle of right-handers in the middle game of this 3-game series. Ground ball to the right side. Adam Rosales taking it to the bag, and that is a winner. Now the Rangers continue.